and gentlemen of the University Philosophical Society, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you all for hosting us. I'd like to thank the SER for flying our guests out, for buying us dinner, and most importantly, for giving me a chance to wear my dead suit for only the second time. I made a clown of myself that night, so I'm going to count this as wearing a costume, and I think we should win, because at least we're in the spooky spirit tonight. Listen, we had a great debate tonight, mostly centering around 2 points of clash. Economics and rights. I'm going to tell you why we win both of those clashes and why we get better economics and better rights on this point. But first of all, I want to take a wider look at what borders are and why I think principally they're illegitimate, so even independent of all of the practical harms discussed tonight, we should allow them to be open. What are borders? I think borders are simply a line on a map which say if you are born on one side of this line, you do not have a certain amount of rights. If you are born on the other side of the line, you're going to be denied these rights. We think, panel, that humans are more than their addition to lines on a graph. We think they're more than GDP. We think they're more than remittances. We think they're actual humans with value in and of themselves. I think when you on opposition side say that because of the circumstance of your birth, you are not allowed to move in order to access more rights. Because of the circumstances of your birth, you are not allowed to be as much of a human or have as many rights as someone else. That is principally illegitimate and is something you cannot stand over. I think what this means is that we have 4 reasons why I think they are principally illegitimate. First of all, it is a fundamental assault on human dignity. Human dignity is assaulted when you are denied rights based on the circumstance of your birth. Because of where and when you are born and you are denied opportunity. We don't understand why humans who are born equal and born free, because you were born on one side of a line, you have less opportunities than another. We think this is principally illegitimate. Secondly, it'll perpetuate inequality. When currently in the status quo, if you were born in Schengen or if you were born with enough money to move somewhere or to buy a visa, you have open borders. Why when the rich currently on the status quo have open borders, why it should be denied to the poor among us? We think this is inequality and it is not something that we should stand for. We think, third of all, very simply, on the point of violence, we think what this means is when you defend your border so rigidly and you say that you cannot come in here, even when that side of the border might be for someone, their homeland, it might be for someone or something they cares about. We think what this denial of rights means is you split families, you lose control of your homeland, you lack opportunities, it leads to war. And fourth of all, which makes the other 3 incredibly worse, it perpetuates inequality. It creates a cycle wherein you as a person, it's not just one instance throughout your life where you can never access what is on the other side of the border. It's not just one time in your life where you can't access these rights. It means you will never be able to access this opportunity. It means you will never be able to escape the cycle of violence. It means you will live your whole life having less rights because you were denied your humanity because of borders. On to what we heard in this debate. First of all, I'm going to discuss economics. I think what we heard from Nicole was the only thing that was actually analysis in this debate. Rather than just a lot of a series of assertions what we got from the likes of Andrew, Nicole specifically told you how you get richer. She gave you mechanisms in that, first of all, you've unskilled labor moving into a more developed marketplace. What does this mean? It means you can complement more skilled labor so they can become entrepreneurs, they can create more capital, and because you are more efficient, at least because you are more efficient, this means you can specialize. You will actually have links towards your capital and you will be paid more per hour and you will produce more per hour because of your link towards the developed capital. That is a specific mechanism as to why economies get richer. We have not heard anything like the sort of sophistication of analysis Nicole gave from opposition bents. Secondly, the circular flow of capital. It means when you have more workers in an economy, you get more spending. This means you perpetuate things. What Andrew wants to tell you is, immigrants just put downward pressure on wages. Listen, I already gave my response in a POI in that I truly believe that the average government, all of their problems, probably smarter than what these guys could think of with 15 minutes of preparation. I truly believe that if you know you're going to have an influx of migrants, you will probably adjust your infrastructure. We saw this in 2004 when the EU expanded the Schengen area and expanded our program. We saw a lot of, for example, Polish migrants moving into Ireland. Yes, there might have been a slight stagnation of wages, but what happened? Because there were more workers around, it means we could have more business. It means more people could operate capital. It isn't that there's a certain amount of jobs and immigrants put downward pressure on those jobs. What happens is more jobs get created. That is why you get better outcomes. I think maybe they win is like this house who will only live within the next 12 months would not allow immigrants into their own country. I think first of all, I don't know why we should care more about the people who are already living in rich countries more than the people living in poor countries. I think the people living in poor countries are probably a lot more vulnerable. When they say you're going to get less infrastructure, I think it's probably better that a Mexican immigrant moves to Boston, and now a Boston person maybe gets a worse house because of the housing crisis, and they both live in one-bedroom apartments. Rather than on their side of the house, we probably have that Mexican person living in a slum and a Boston person in a two-bedroom apartment. I don't know why it's better to have Boston people living slightly more cushy lives. We can massively improve the lives of these people who want to access this opportunity. They give us no analysis as to why we should care more about them. Secondly, on the point of overpopulation, I think it's just ridiculous to say that everyone is going to move towards the city, which is massively. First of all, as pointed out by Keegan multiple times, they give us no reasons why there should be massively more than people already moving. I think most people already moving probably don't care a massive amount about whether the border is open or whether the border is closed. They're going to move because they want better interests. They're going to fit themselves into lorries. They're going to put themselves on rafts on the Mediterranean. What we do on our side of the house is we just make lives easier for these people. Because they never told us why we get massive increases in migration, you can't credit any of their analysis given towards overpopulation. But even if you can, I just don't accept that everyone will just move to these cities and make these cities terrible. Panel, if Dublin gets even worse because of housing crisis, if Boston gets worse, if New York City gets a lot worse, people have information about these things. They will know that I will just move to another city where I can actually get a house. They say you get a lot of political backlash, for example in Madagascar, where you cannot buy a house. If that is the case, then people will just not move to Madagascar. It is very simple. These people because they're open borders, have a lot of choice over where to go, and it's completely ridiculous to say that they're going to be denied rights. The next thing Andrew says was that you get a lot of backlash from immigrants. Listen, first of all, I point out in the POI, racists are not logical. They do not look at statistics of who is coming in and how many people. They don't say, oh, it's only 100 refugees, we're not going to protest at all, we're fine with those people, we're only going to protest when it becomes 101 people. Racists are always going to protest. They're always going to push for higher restrictions. This happens equally on both sides of the house. They need to prove why a racist thought is a logical thought and a rational thought for that analysis to occur. I'm pretty sure they cannot make that point, so I don't think that stands. But listen, even if it is true that you get some backlash, first of all, at least we give these immigrants a choice as to whether to stay in their own country or whether to move into a place where they might get backlash. Even if it's not ideal for them to live in a place where they get racist abuse, at least we give them a choice and freedom to escape famine, to escape from war. I think that is probably better off to give them a choice. But I also think having more people of different cultures in your society actually makes your society less racist. This means that people can interact with people of different cultures. This means people can understand other people. On their side of the house, probably the only interaction you get is this caricature from racists and from politicians saying this is what people are like. I don't think that is actually something that's going to reduce racism. I think it's actually going to increase racism. On our side of the house, when you can interact with more people of a different race, when you can interact with more people of different religion, that's when you realize that it's where humanity unites us and we're not all that different. I'll take a point.
Well, social contact theory is an argument via the theory.
Thank you very much.
The question is, if we're going to take people who potentially have sort of less education, potentially less exposure to the country, to the culture of the country they're going to, and the language, what stops them from sort of even further clustering in enclaves, which happens in the status quo, but would be worse on the bigger side of the house?
So I think first of all, because it already happened in the status quo, I'm not sure why it entirely matters in this debate. Second of all, I think it's just ridiculous and just entirely tone deaf from the Cambridge side of the house to say they might have ethnic enclaves, which means they might get racist. So that means we're not going to let them in. That means we're going to leave them stay in their countries where there's famine, where there's war, and we're not going to give them a choice. Even if we accept them at their best and we say these lives are not ideal for immigrants moving into these developed countries, we think at least we give them a choice. We think it is also an informed choice in that you know what the opportunities are in a place like Paris. You know what the opportunities are like. You can literally Google what the housing prices are. You can literally hear from all of your friends who have emigrated as to what the quality of life is like. Very quickly on to what we got from the second speaker. First of all, he said he's not a Tory, but he said that, but the reason he said it is because he would rather eat cacao, which is Icelandic cuisine. That is the most Tory thing I've ever heard. I think he is lying. But secondly, his entire analysis was that life gets worse because immigration rises in an uncontrolled manner. This is completely asserted. They don't ever say it. I think because you probably are more likely to move to local areas, to where you're a similar culture, and where you have the best quality of life, you're not all going to move to the same place. Panel, at the end of this debate, what do you need to hear? You need to hear that we will all get richer and safer, and you need to hear that we will protect rights on our side of the house, and I beg you to propose.